Hey guys, welcome back. It's Randy Hatada here at Xpand Realty, bringing you your Las Vegas market update. Today we have a special guest in store for you. Her name is Carrie Hokumura.
Hi everyone.
Glad to have you, Carrie. Carrie's been with Xpand Realty and been doing real estate for over 10 years now.
Yes.
Wow,
this
how time
year's
flies.
10 years. Yeah.
Crazy. So I remember Carrie actually started her Las Vegas real estate career here at Xpand Realty. And with that brings a lot of knowledge and wisdom to the table. So we have her as a guest, and we're going to pick her brain and get some experience shares from her as well. Carrie is actually also originally from Hawaii. How long ago did you move to Las Vegas?
10 years ago.
Oh, so at the same time.
Same time.
So you jumped right into the market and
Jumped right
industry. All right. So obviously she's not yet afraid of getting her feet wet. She jumped right into real estate upon her relocation as a Ninth Islander or Las Vegan
We're
right
local
now.
now. It's been 10 years.
Go Knights.
Go Knights.
All right, so she's a local, and so we're bringing you news from your local experts. Right now it's May, it's spring, and awkwardly it's been raining the last week and the week before as well, which is sometimes it happens, but kind of weird to be prepared for spring and then, have a whole bunch of showers and almost even floods the other day, right? Luckily, we did not experience a lot of flood control and leaks in regards to housing, especially on our property management side of the arm. But there has been a lot of flooding, and luckily, again, it did not damage too much of Vegas. Because if you guys didn't know, when Las Vegas rains, the ground here is desert ground and it doesn't saturate that well. The dirt kind of turns into clay, and that's what causes flooding. So what you may not know about Las Vegas is that we have a really good flood system and a canal system, whatever you might call it. But we do have a good flood control system, thus changing a lot of communities into non-flood zones, which originally could have been a flood zone. So that's really helped. Also, you might have heard on the news, the first place to flood is normally on the Strip. And that's because it's kind of like in a ravine and it collects water, and then it's too much water for it to release the water, and thus the Strip floods quite often actually when there's heavy rain. So I didn't hear of any of that as well, even though we did have a lot of rain. Anyways, today is a beautiful day. It is sunny. It's probably 80 degrees out there?
Yes. It will get windy in the next couple of days too.
Why is that?
That's what the weather forecast said.
Really? Yeah, anytime the temperature changes here, we get major winds. And today is actually going to be, I thought it was, I'm looking at Chicago. Let's look at Las Vegas. The irony is the same temperature, 65 degrees, and the high is going to be 78. So almost 80. Yeah. Low is 54, so a very nice day. Tomorrow, the high is 85. That's going up in temperature. Friday 91 degrees, Saturday 94, Sunday 93. So we're in store for a real spring, and that's the high. So
bipolar weather. So throughout the day it's going to be a nice week, and then Monday, Tuesday it does say very high wind. So anyways, with that being said, spring's the time to enjoy the outdoors here in Las Vegas. It's one of the times that we open up the windows and doors and actually enjoy weather, because you may or may not know, but Las Vegas uses a lot of air conditioning, and we're used to leaving those windows closed and just enjoying AC. But now we can actually enjoy the outside temperature, as long as you are okay with allergies, which is kind of a common theme when spring starts, but it's kind of leveling out right now, right? Yep.
What do you have in store for me?
Hopefully we get to go off-roading.
Off-roading?
Yeah.
Rock climbing?
Rock climbing, take the Jeep out.
So Carrie has a Jeep, what is it, Wrangler?
Rubicon, yeah.
Jeep Rubicon, all lifted with the big tires and all that, and she goes rock climbing, if you didn't know. So it's kind of a big deal out here in Las Vegas. A lot of dunes, a lot of rock climbing and
trails.
Trail riding, four-wheeling, dirt biking, all that is a popular event. We are in a little bit of a desert, so a lot of trail riding and dune riding.
Yeah. And hopefully I get to take Randy's jet ski out to the lake.
By all means, let's go. You go and keep it running, because I'm just collecting dust on it. with that, this is a good segue because I just read that Clark County is rolling out a new ordinance for e-bikes and e-scooters and all the things that are powered by a motor. So little change, but I know it's been a issue with a lot of HOAs recently, and most HOAs don't allow skateboards and motor scooters or electric scooters and electric bikes, and now they have rules around them in the county. So welcome to Las Vegas. You're gonna have to talk to the kids.
Yeah, I think that's everywhere though, because it's just been so dangerous with all the accidents.
That's true. Well, it just started here this week, so
yeah.
Well, it just got approved this week, but anyways, it's part of the news. Speaking of the news, and this is huge, so our market has a little bit of volatility going on, meaning that it's moving and bouncing all around. And I personally believe that a lot is caused by, well, it is caused by usually consumer reactions to something going on in the world, right? And the reaction to those events in the world causes our market to change, or causes volatility in our market, right? And right now, the big deal is, Trump announcing tariffs, all these geopolitical things going on, which affects our financial market, which affects our real estate market. And where I'm going with this is that between the actual event that changes things and the reaction from consumers, the intermediary is normally the news or social media. And what I don't like is that the news usually pushes gloom and doom because that's what sells. That's what people read. That's what people watch, right?
Right.
That's how you get the analytics. So right now it's all gloom and doom out there. If you go to our local news, social media, anything dealing with real estate, there's a lot of, I would say, less than accurate articles out there based on opinion. And what's happening is that consumers, you guys, a lot of the locals are taking it as facts and making a reactive decision based on that, which affects our market. So here's a good example, and I'm not gonna say the news company that's putting this out, but here's one topic that just came out this week. Inventory flooding Las Vegas Valley home market with no buyers in sight. Quotations from the Big Z company. That's where they're getting that information from. Home prices drop from record high in Las Vegas, reports say. Oh, here's actually a positive one. Las Vegas luxury home market defies trends. Prices soar by 107%. So luxury market hasn't got affected that much. Another news company, local home prices are starting to drop, but not by that much. That's actually an accurate article or accurate information. So I guess the point I'm making is that the part that's inaccurate is that there's no home buyers in sight. Because there's a lot of home buyers in sight.
Yes, there is.
They're just not making a decision to offer right now because they're uncertain what to do in this volatile world, right?
Right.
So I know you're representing buyers. I represent a couple. And what are you seeing with your buyers and how their reaction to the market right now?
They're actively looking. And they're like, if I find something that, they want to jump on, they will make a move. But again, there's the ones that are like, I'm ready. And then something happens. And then they're like, okay, wait.
So those are two topics that we got to talk about. One are just the buyers that are shopping, right? And I mean, I talk to a lot of agents, obviously, and we keep in tune with our market. And it's not just your message, it's our entire industry saying that a lot of our buyers are just simply actively looking, and kind of conservative on pulling the trigger.
Yes.
And with that, we're going to go over the numbers to prove what the actual data reflects, but that's kind of a trend going on right now. So I guess the correction to the news is that the buyers are here. We have tons of buyers. It's just a matter of giving them the confidence, or when they're confident, they're going to pull the trigger, which they're not right now. So buyer and offers are limited, thus affecting closings, thus affecting listings, thus affecting inventory, days in the market, and everything that we kind of follow, right, as an industry. So my biggest share, or I don't know how to call it advice, but biggest tip that I could offer you guys is follow people like us who are giving you facts versus opinions that can skew decisions. because we're in the trenches and we're only feeding you real information. Whether it favors the buyer or seller is up to you to determine, but we're giving you actual data and then giving you our experience shares based on that data as well. So that's the difference. We're not trying to look for what sells. We're trying to give you real information and real news. That's what we're all about.
Yep.
That's why you're here, Carrie, anyway. You just didn't know what you were walking into. So anything else before we get into the actual numbers and market that people should be doing or what you look forward to doing in May? May is like pre-summer, so right now it's like the time.
Yes.
Right? Tropical weather, pretty
Tropical
much,
weather.
right?
I mean, it's gonna get hot in Vegas.
It's gonna get hot.
It's gonna get hot.
Summer's gonna peak out soon.
Yeah.
A couple months.
Well, normally this time of the year, it's busy. Real estate is, this is when people are starting to shop for homes or list their homes. There's movement on listings. I see that.
Well, before we get into numbers, let's talk about the fun stuff is what I meant.
Oh, okay.
What's the fun stuff you plan on doing in May?
Said off-roading.
Oh, I already asked you that?
Yeah.
What else though? What else?
Hopefully we get to go and travel, take the fifth wheel out and just
Explore the outdoors.
explore outdoors.
Is that what you do with the fifth wheel?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so now's the time for a lot of locals or people visiting even to explore the outdoors more because it's such an ideal climate. Winter gets a little cold, summer gets a little hot, so right now is prime time to really take advantage. And a lot of people here locally, they do jogging, trail, whatever you call them. Hiking, that's what you call them. Hiking, Lake Mead, Colorado River activities, which include fishing, jet skiing, boating, all the fun stuff.
Yes.
Hydrofoiling, and speaking of which, that's a taboo word in my world because I just hurt my ribs on a hydrofoil, but
No.
I know it's out there. And then what do you call the one where the boat pulls you on skis? Water skiing?
Water ski?
Water ski or kneeboarding or all that stuff anyway, right? Just say yes.
Yes.
So there's a lot of fun stuff out there, and that's what's going on in the outdoor world, Las Vegas. Sports is kind of like, I live in that world because I have a son that's in that point of his life where sports is everything. So that's about to end shortly for summer, and we're looking forward to a little break. And so for me in my world, like me and my son, we're looking forward to hopefully get a break to hopefully go fishing and maybe traveling. And so the nice thing about Vegas, I'm sure you guys know, but we're centered on the west coast, and so it's an easy commute to get to the 5 bordering states amongst traveling the nation and everywhere else. So a lot of people in Las Vegas do a lot of traveling. Even with the fifth wheel or RV, a lot of people have them, which is why it's such a demanded thing for real estate to have RV parking, RV garages, or just space to store these big toys.
Toys.
All right. Well, you guys get the point. It's beautiful out there. Enjoy it. So let's get into the numbers and kind of trends and all of the above. So as you said, buyers are a little slow to pull the trigger. We're going to see that but based on the numbers, which means that sellers should be potentially adjusting prices if they need to and offering more incentives if they need to. And I just read an article this morning actually about concessions, and that nationwide concessions is pretty much at a high, and 44% of buyers are either getting or expecting some kind of concession. And so if you're a buyer, what that means to you guys is opportunity. I mean, we are coming off a market high, so prices are high. The question would be really, is it going to go down, right? That's what all buyers are kind of concerned about. And then they're also concerned about interest rates, which is just shy of the 7% mark right now. I think it's 6.8, which is pretty good. 6.7, I think, actually. Pretty good interest rate. So it's not really the interest rates that's holding people back as much today. It's really just all the geopolitics going on or politics in general, and the stock market, and the concern about our overall financial market. But what it does do is give opportunities to buyers that do have the confidence that now's a good time for them, right?
Yes.
And with that being said, if 44% of the people are getting or expecting concessions, I'm pretty sure the article said getting nationwide. And the record high for concessions were recently 45%. So we're only 1% less than the all-time record high of seller concessions. So that kind of puts us at a buyer market, even though numbers are up, giving more leverage to buyers. And another article I read was actually by the news is that a lot of the sellers, and this is actually an accurate article, sellers are actually asking for aggressive amounts and they're simply not getting it, but they're holding firm with those aggressive amounts and not doing price reductions. And so there's a lot I want to say about that, because the sellers are what controls the dip in the market, because even if the buyers don't offer, if they're willing to hold, eventually buyers are gonna have to buy. They're gonna have to meet somewhere close to what the market is if they want to buy. But if the sellers start dipping too quickly, it starts a trend and it kind of becomes a race to the bottom. And we've seen that in prior industry or prior markets here in Las Vegas. So hopefully sellers, kind of stay consistent and don't feel pressure to adjust radically unless you really have to sell. But again, once one person does it, it's the matter of how much people are going to follow that, which now sets comps, which now dips the market, which could be a good or bad thing. It just really depends how you're looking at analyzing what's a good and bad market, right?
Yep.
So are you seeing concessions from sellers right now or builders and all that?
I am. Not all builders though. Like some communities, they're not giving as much incentives as other communities.
I think a lot has to do with obviously has to do with the demand for that development and the limited amount of things they have to offer or lots they have to offer within that community. So supply and demand. But to blanket everything across the board, saying that we have all this inventory and it ain't selling and, is not always accurate. And so I know you're the one who actually brought to our meeting the other day that there's a community out there offering like a multi-gen and single stories and
oh yeah,
and they're already like pretty much selling out.
They're selling, yes.
And that's at a higher price point, isn't it?
It is. They're actually like 60,000 more than their last phase.
They increased it by
selling.
60,000
yes.
in this phase.
Yes.
And they're still selling.
And they're still selling.
So this builder specifically, and you're going to have to reach out to Carrie to get that information, but this builder specifically is offering multi-gen homes. Basically what they've done is pretty ingenious. They went through all their communities, took what is their best selling products, put it all in one community, priced it the best they could, even though it's up $60,000, and they're selling like hotcakes, right?
Yeah. It's because it's bigger lots and
dirt lots.
Single story.
So it's single story multi-gen.
They're single story.
Oh, I thought it was multi-gen and single story. So it's all single story multi-gen, meaning that it has two basically living units. For multi-gen just means doesn't have to mean generational, but it does mean that it's created for multiple living spaces.
Yes.
Yeah. So huge demand for that, and obviously they probably aren't giving much incentives, right?
No.
You're lucky to even get a lot.
Even interest, buying down the rate. No.
Wow.
No.
And guys, what concessions are, or incentives, whatever you want to call it, usually is credit to closing costs, credit to upgrades, buy downs for interest rates, and in resale, maybe even like repair credits. So those would all be considered some type of concession or some type of incentive. So there you go. Speaking of which, we have major problems with appraisals right now based on concessions and based on the new NAR lawsuit changes to our world. And what's happening is that because the closed listings aren't adding commissions transparently in it, and they're not adding concessions transparently in it, appraisers don't know how much the realtor got paid or how much credit was offered as a concession. And so they have to manually call the listing agent, and a lot of listing agents aren't picking up the phone. probably busy doing something else, I would assume, but they're not accurate or timely returning those calls. Thus, appraisers are struggling with accurate information. And if they can't get the information, what happens is that a lot of the time they'll throw that comp out, which might be a solid comp, because they don't have an indicator if it's accurate or not, what the actual close amount was based on the incentive given to the buyer. So huge industry problem right now based on the MLS transparency of commissions and concessions. So just something to know. And with all of this, you know what's crazy is that you think with all the problems that we have and volatility that maybe there'll be like notice of defaults and foreclosures. There really aren't that much. Our numbers have not changed very much in foreclosures or pre-foreclosures. And it's because most people have equity today. And so even if they're falling behind financially, they can theoretically sell the property, which is what most people do. And so if you know anyone that has financial hardship, just, the best tip you could give them is you probably have equity and you probably can sell and you probably will get a profit out of that rather than
losing everything
and giving it, getting it taken back by the bank. So I've already seen a couple this year where those sellers got pretty close to losing their property. And it's crazy to me because they had good equity and they were able to sell it in a timely manner, even if it was discounted a little bit, to put money in their pocket. They would have walked away with no house and no funds.
No, nothing.
Yeah, so crazy things going on in this world. Jumping right into the numbers, do you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay, then let's jump right into the numbers. So we've been talking about our median price point for the last we talk about it every episode, but we've been talking about being at a market high since January. And January, we hit our all-time market high median price point of $485,000. January, we maintained that price point at $485,000. Did I say February?
January.
I said January again?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I meant February. So January, February, March consistently maintained $485,000, our median price point market high. April did slide a little bit. April slid by $5,000, making our new median price point $480,000. Sounds scary, but it's really not that much. I mean, it just, like the article said, it didn't really change the game very much, but it is an indicator to watch. $5,000 off the median price point equates to 1%. So it was a 1% decrease in the median price point. So that's what we're keeping our eyes on, is where that number is going to go, because it affects sellers and buyers, right? And again, buyers just understand that during volatility, there's usually opportunity. So keep your ears open that if there's any numbers that stand out to you, these numbers will probably help you make good, accurate decisions in the near future, especially if you're in the actual market looking for houses now. Yeah, if you're actually house hunting. Units sold is at 2,174 units sold, which is actually up from March. And again, we're looking at April numbers, although it's May. And April is up by 32 additional sales since March. So market is picking up, and January, February, March, April, every month has got more closings. But in the overall history of spring, we're on the low side. However, sales are picking up. So that's kind of the message. I think you brought it up earlier that during this time, we should be extremely busy as realtors, but we're busy doing other things right now. And a lot of that is really informing and consulting versus actually doing transactions. And it's because buyers aren't sure what to do. And so that's, hopefully this episode can help a lot of people, including sellers. So we're up to 2,174 sales. That's up 32 from the month prior. And new listings is up by quite a bit, 323 new listings. That's 3,663 new listings that has hit the market. And units available is 6,213. So this is what And that's up 797 more units available from the month prior. And so the news is saying, we're getting blown up with high inventory or extreme inventory with no buyers in sight. Well, let's analyze the numbers and really look at our market, because those numbers are skewed. Because if our sales closings are going up and units available are going up, there's somewhat of an offset there. And that's where we kind of get our effective availability or a month supply. And our month supply is at 2.9 months supply, which technically, without all the things going on outside of real estate, would equate to, in my opinion, a very healthy market and fair market for buyers and sellers. That's up 0.4% from last month. It is up 92% year over year. But again, a 3-month supply of inventory, which means in 3 months, if there were no more listings, there'd be no more inventory. So that's the amount of time that it takes to absorb that inventory, is a very healthy number. Now, if this trend continues in this way, then, it's something to get really concerned about. And it's kind of what's happening to our condo market a little bit more for different reasons than single family. But again, units available is high, but the month supply is healthy. And so that gives a totally different message than no buyers in sight. So I hope the news is listening so they can make some adjustments. But again, it's the extreme things that sell and what people tend to subscribe and listen to. But here are the facts, guys. As the other thing that the news said, and I stated this before, is that sellers are asking for aggressive amounts and holding those numbers. And in this stat, our median price point is $535,000, which is up $10,000 month over month. So prices went down, closing sales median price point went down, and ask prices went up. So our sellers are still thinking and confident that they're gonna get more and continue to list higher. And the buyers are saying, no, we're gonna offer less. And the sellers haven't bitten into that yet. And so that's kind of a trend going on right now and something to really monitor. But I think we are gonna unfortunately see, well, not even unfortunately, it depends what side of the fence you are. We are gonna see price reductions at the end of the day, especially for people who have been on the market for more than 30, 60 days. They're going to start feeling some pressure, and eventually, if things don't change, start reducing prices. Because I don't know about you, but I have listings that have been sitting, no matter how much we advertise it and how much showings we have, which is usually an indicator that it's going to sell, hasn't sold.
But you're getting showings.
We're getting showings.
So am I.
Okay, all right. So that's pretty
getting
consistent.
Showings.
I'll give you a good example. So we have a pool home in the $650,000 price point in Desert Shores. Huge two-story home, 3-car garage with a pool. We've been holding open houses for it, and those open houses are averaging 7 to 10 viewings a day, and that's in a 3-4 hour period. So for open houses, that's a very successful open house. And we've done that for 5-6 open houses now, and we don't have any valid offers on the table. So, we're getting the viewings, the buyers are there, they're just not offering. Not even like fair low offers. And I say fair low offers because we get those extreme low offers, the low balls on every listing. It's kind of a trend, and a lot of those investors happen to be like private equity monies, and they're offering $50,000 to $150,000 less than ask price. They're fishing. So I don't even consider those real offers.
Right.
But it is a trend, and we're getting on pretty much every listing. And so it doesn't even look good as a listing agent. Like, you present that to your seller because you have to, and because you have to present all offers unless they sign something saying not to. But we're presenting them just because it's our duty, and the sellers are getting pretty emotional by even seeing those things. So it kind of works in backwards, like, hey, we're happy to present offers, but when it's too low, it kind of works in reverse. Sellers start getting emotional. Something buyers should think about, like, it might be a better strategy to do your highest and best
low offer, then a lower offer than that, and expect negotiations up, because sellers are people and they do get emotional. And so just get straight to the point of what you feel like you want to take the property for with a good value, and take a shot that way. It might be a good strategy.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, let's get into the condo market. This is the one that's a little bit more volatile than the single families, where units sold actually went down, and units sold went down by 26 units sold, down to 544 sales, making our median price point $302,000. And that's down about $4,000. So condo median price point is going down, and the sales volume is going down, which is an indicator that there's going to be a lot more adjusting going on in the condo market. So new listings, we're at 1,000 new listings, which is down about 38 listings or 40 listings from last month, which is strange because units sold has gone down, but new listings has also gone down. Median ask price is actually under the median sold price. The median ask price is $297,000, and our median sold price is $303,000. I'm rounding up. So the ask is actually less than the actual settlement amount by using medians anyway. So kind of confusing to analyze that, right? Units available actually went up by 186 units to 2,400 units. And here's the big number, you guys, that we always love looking at, which is month supply. It went up half a month supply up to 4.4 month supply of inventory, which again, we talked about 3-month inventory being healthy. 4.4 month supply of inventory for condos is high. And so that's why I believe we're going to start seeing more adjustments in the settlement prices, even in the median ask price. What I believe is that list prices for condos are going to start adjusting. And this is my opinion based on data. So just understand that this is opinion. No one has a crystal ball, but that's what I think is going to happen. What about you?
Yeah, and knowing that if there's multiple units for sale in a community and a seller wants to sell, that's probably why they're listing lower than what's sold.
Right. And condos are even more volatile as a product than a single family, because within a complex, all the units are very similar. The difference is the upgrades and maybe the positioning within the community, but they're pretty much all the same floor plans. If you got a 2-bedroom, it's all the same all the way around. 1-bedroom, all the same all the way around. So the difference is the upgrades and positioning and views. But other than that, they're pretty similar. And so if you have one person in the community that drops it extremely or a good amount, it could set a trend, because that becomes a comp, and then it kind of sets a trend. But once you do a price reduction, now all the other listings are like, oh my God, look how low that one is. We're going to have to be competitive, and they start adjusting, which I don't always agree with, right? I mean, if not, it's going to be a race to the bottom until everything sells at a lower amount. So
but that's what happens if you look in a community.
That's what happens with panic, right? And a lot of communities, that's what happens. So to give you some insight about condo complexes, some are small, some are large. I mean, small ones could be 50 to 100 units. The large ones could be 400, 500 units. So the large ones obviously have more inventory, and the large ones usually have more volatility because there's more for sales at the same time. And in a volatile market, if one owner, changes that price point dramatically, it affects all the other owners. And then if they start chasing that price and matching it, it changes the entire community pretty much overnight. And so that's something to look out for. So, buyers, if you're looking in the condo market, just something to notate, and you can use all this data for your benefit or for something that maybe you want to avoid or get attracted to. But yeah, anyways, condo market is softening, is the summary, I guess. Why is that so? I guess would be the next question. Any insight?
Just because there's a lot more listings.
There is, and I think, I've probably said this before, but I think condos have a high ratio of investors for ownership. In fact, I would
say the majority are investors that own condominiums today. And when the market hits a high and it's starting to get volatile or start adjusting the other way, a lot of investors jump on the bandwagon. Did I say that really loud? Follow the trend and sell. And so you get a lot of listings at the same time. Thus, that market dips a lot more aggressively than single family, especially because they're all similar. Whereas single family, at least there's all these different floor plans and options and changes. So they're not directly affected as much as a condo sale is. But now that investors see that we had a market high, we're seeing some adjustments. I think a lot of investors are like, well, I could use the money somewhere else, or maybe I want to just take my high when it's there. And so there's a lot of investors that are selling at the same time, thus affecting month supply and available inventory. Rentals are kind of following the same trend for both markets, where there's a little bit more inventory than normal, and things have been going a lot slower than normal, which means days in the market for rental listings have been sitting longer. So if you're renting, that's a great tip for you guys, is that there may be more wiggle room for negotiations in rent. Whereas during COVID, you'd have to wait in line to even get full price for a rental. So completely different market. And rent amounts have actually adjusted downwards, not by a whole huge amount, but by $50 to $100. So investors that own property, just be aware of that. And renters, be aware of that, so you guys can both make your own educated decisions on what to do next. Incentives and concessions equate to the same thing as far as a seller's net proceeds, net profit. But when you're asking a listing agent, it's completely different. And we're pretty much mainly dealing with resale sales, although we do have a lot of agents here that list brand new properties. Resale sales, it's really hard to advertise concessions and incentives in a listing because people looking at the listing don't get to the remarks, fine print, and details if they don't get past the price. And if they see, hey, that price is too high, they won't even read that there's an incentive going on. Whereas new builders are different because it's on their website, or if you walk into the sales office, they're telling you there's an incentive going on. And so they can advertise it appropriately. For us as a listing agent, most people don't see it unless they open that listing up, which is usually dictated by list price. And most buyers shop from the bottom up for the lowest price. And those are the ones they're spending more time opening. So strategy-wise for sellers, if you're going to offer an incentive, you might want to keep that in your back pocket for negotiations. But instead of thinking about offering the incentive, maybe you just want to adjust price a little bit equal to the incentive, because then you'll get the viewership online, which leads to showings, which leads to offers. I'm not saying race to the bottom. I'm just saying if you're offering something, just reduce the price by what you're offering because it displays better online. And that's a professional opinion.
That's a good opinion.
Good advice?
Yep.
Try not to use the word advice, but yeah, take it from us. I mean, we do a lot of listings, and that's a challenge. And there's other ways around it, which if you ever want to find out more about some of our secrets, our inside secrets, no, not so much. But if you want to know more about how we advertise things like that, we're happy to share. Just comment below or reach out to us. So how are you feeling right now about where we are and where we're headed as a Las Vegas real estate market?
Confident, because I feel Vegas will be a strong market. Well, considering other places, that's not. There's so much coming to Vegas. A lot of investors are still here. Big things still happening. So it's still a good place to invest. Or if you're living here, still buy, because eventually, my opinion is we will be where California prices are soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually we're going to get there, and that's when things will I think we won't have as much relocation from California at that point because the benefit is not as great. But right now, the benefit is great. And so 32% of our population is coming from California. And I say it like a broken record, as long as our California people are moving here, that's what is pushing our market up. And so it's going to continue, in my opinion, just like you said, to go up in the long run, really with California leading that charge. And so the real question is, where are prices going in the near future? Because long run, I think we all agree prices are going to go up, right? Vegas is just too demanded. And unless something on the macro scale changes or something from California changes where they stop coming, there's just a limited amount of supply and too much demand for it not to go up, on top of inflation and everything else, cost of materials, all of the above. So we strongly feel that in the long run, Las Vegas will continue to go up. But the real question is, where are we going from now, short term? And quite frankly, we'd be guessing at that just like you would be. Will it go down? That's the real question for buyers, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of buyers are waiting to see if it's going to go down or if our market's going to crash in its entirety. Personally, I don't see a crash in sight, not with the amount of people here that need homes. But yeah, I could easily see there being some adjustments in the downwards trend in the near future while things get figured out, and everything works in trends. That's why we talk about trends, right? And usually it's the person that leads that trend or the people that lead that trend that take the risk, and they either get rewarded accordingly or penalized accordingly. So they're the risk takers that really change that market. And a good example and another trend, which is important, I think, is that a lot of the sales that are closing today and being offered on are remodeled properties or modern properties or newer properties. Like we talked about brand new and all that. So the trend is that buyers are gravitating towards remodeled and newer. Even though they're more expensive to them, they're getting good value for that. And that tends to be what's selling right now. And so on the flip side, if you're an owner, it's a good discussion to talk about, are you willing to remodel to add value to your property in order to sell it or rent it or even live in it? The good thing is that you're mainly capturing the remodel value back on a case-by-case basis, which was not true in the past. In the past, for example, say you own a $400,000, call it a $500,000 home, and you put in $50,000 upgrade, you might not be getting that $50,000 back. You put in a pool in for $100,000. You're certainly in the past not getting that $100,000 back. You might be getting back $15,000, $20,000 in a appraisal credit or actual value based on the market analysis approach with comparables, which is very different than the replacement cost approach. But today, because of the demand that we have, remodels are getting recaptured in the majority to a certain extent. I mean, anything extreme, you're not going to recapture it. But the cabinets, the countertops, the flooring, the paint, owners are recapturing that value and appraisers are giving them the value back. So in most cases, without going extreme, and I just threw a random number of $50,000, which is 10% of 500, they're getting it back. And appraisers are giving them back, whereas in the past they were not. So it might be a good idea if you have been holding off on remodeling your own owner-occupied home, but worried about not getting that value back. You're getting it now in most cases. And then as an investor, you're getting more rent for sure. Not by a whole landslide. You got to figure out your break-even analysis. But in most cases, even for condominiums, you're getting back the remodel cost. And so there's a lot of flippers today, which is another trend, capitalizing on that opportunity. Whereas in the past, again, appraisers were not recovering that value. So flippers were taking a big risk by doing that. And this conversation was started because all it takes is one person to buy that remodeled home at a high price. And now there's a comp for the next. And there's communities where no one bought the bullet for that high price. And so it's not getting recaptured yet. And all the remodeled properties are not selling or haven't been sold. So they're not recapturing that value. So if you're taking that remodel approach for value reasons, just make sure that you're doing it in a community where there's proof of concept. Basically, someone has paid the high dollar in the past, so your appraiser, when you sell it or when you rent it, has some data to go by. That makes sense, right?
Yep. And I know some communities where that is happening.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well, let's not say that online. But yeah, I'm glad that resonates. So I think you guys got some good nuggets out of this episode. I'd like to thank you, Carrie, for joining
Thank
us
you.
and adding another element of education, knowledge, wisdom, all of the good stuff. As you can see, we are sporting our Ninth Island flag here and there, but we are enjoying the weather, and I hope you do too. So stay safe, stay dry, and open your windows. Take care, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.